One of the things that I was most excited about wasn't just the score, it was the return of raw, brute physicality by the Texans defense. Because after all, this is what we were promised by DeMeco in the spring when he talked about what he looks for in his teams.
Team that plays fast and a team that is the most physical team on Sundays. All right, when you line up across from us, that next week you should be hurting a little bit, all right? Because we want to play a physical brand of football. We want to play fast, attacking, and we want to get after people.
Okay, so Anthony Richardson was feeling it, but that was also after he'd run for 2 touchdowns without being touched until the very end of one of those long touchdown runs. But on the whole, not as physical an effort versus the Colts as it was yesterday versus the Jaguars. Now, the Jaguars ran the ball effectively. Don't get me wrong. This was not a squelching defensive effort. But one thing that we were informed of in the spring via Nick Caserio was that in DeMeco's defenses, he wants to be sure that at times when you have to play softer coverages, that you punish receivers when they make a catch. So you call it that kill zone. It's not a soft spot in your zone coverage. It's a kill zone. It's an opportunity where a guy's going to have a nice, easy catch, throw and catch, and then bam, up comes somebody to destroy his world. And that's why I was very curious to see how they were going to play versus this guy, Calvin Ridley, who was matched up against Shaq Griffin, replacement for Derek Stingley for much of the day. And we saw early on, as you watch Griffin back off here into some off coverage, which is the smart thing to do, and then a pretty easy pitch and catch by Trevor Lawrence to Calvin Ridley. I thought, okay, let's see what they do with this. Yes, they're going to have to play softer coverages, but Jimmy Ward was back in the fold. Eric Murray, who got injured early last week, was back in the fold. They're still missing Jalen Petrie, but these safeties are going to be the guys that you really rely on to come up and be the enforcers when guys catch easy passes over the middle in the flats. So this play, we're not going to see soft coverage per se, but we are going to see just a 4-man pass rush. And the Texans play aggressively at the bottom here versus the screen. It ends up, as our eyes bug out at the 0-0 combination of Griffin on Calvin Ridley, you're going to see Calvin Ridley get an easy catch. But, oh, my God. Jimmy Ward, who made this his business at San Francisco to intimidate people over the middle, announced his presence and got Ridley to gator arm it. And there he is laying slumped over. He was fine afterwards. But since this is a divisional opponent, I want to highlight something that I had shown you a few months ago. And that's how the 49ers with the DeMeco Ryans defense treated their divisional opponents, like Tyler Higbee, tight end, who I went back looking for evidence of one play that I knew he'd gotten knocked out in late October. Lo and behold, in their first game of the year in early October last year, Tyler Higbee got knocked out of the game with what looked like a pretty innocuous hit. He didn't get super injured, but he did leave the field hunched over and uncomfortable. Very common sight that we would see out of Tyler Higbee. And here's where our hero, Jimmy Ward, did knock him out of the game, at least temporarily last year. So knocking guys out with clean, legal football hits, not that bad of a thing to do. Did Jimmy Ward go low on Calvin Ridley? He did not. He did go low on Tyler Higbee, but he's a much larger man than Jimmy Ward. Yeah, that was some brutality by one Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward talking to his buddies, hey, buddy, I'm not your ethics professor. I just play football and hit people. So we move to later in the second quarter in what would be another drive killer, Eric Murray's caused fumble. And this is even more impressive when I show you some context for it afterwards. 4-man rush, soft zone coverage, soft spot in the coverage there, easy pitch and catch, except you're going to pay the price. There is a toll to pay for catching a football over the middle of the Texans defense. That's really, really important to establish, especially versus a divisional opponent. Let them know, let them remember, let them feel it in their kidneys every time they line up. They know they might get targeted over the middle. The thing that makes this even more impressive by Eric Murray is that Eric Murray had been in the concussion protocol the previous week for a hit in Indianapolis where Mo Alley Cox kind of took it to pretty much half the Texans defense. But watches Eric Murray comes up and stalemates and rolls up. I thought he had a stinger at first, but he taps his head. You can see it from the wider copy on this. So Eric Murray had been in the concussion protocol the previous week for that hit versus Mo Alley Cox, and he comes back and he does the exact same thing, but against a much smaller human being, but still very much sticking his head in there. Ballsy, gutsy move by Eric Murray.
Are you threatening me?
Yeah. I'm kind of threatening you, okay? By proxy. I can't do it anymore physically, but I'll live through these guys like it's a dysfunctional household and I'm living vicariously through my children. Will Anderson is another guy I've been asked a lot of questions about today since he hasn't shown up with a sack since week 1. Week 2, I don't think he had a great game. I still have to watch the All-22 of this one, but he did have one of the biggest drive stops in the game when he blocked the field goal. And there's a little bit more to it than just bullying your way through, especially these days on field goal. So let's take a look at this. So you're going to see Will Anderson is on the right side of the defensive line, circled there by Robert Smith. Thank you. And there's also a lot of teamwork that goes into this. That's harder hand-eye coordination than you think. Malik Collins does a great job here. He disguises a defensive hold. He and Will Anderson are going to both make it appear like they're swimming into their gaps. And when you're the Malik Collins guy, what you do is you make it look like you're swimming and trying to pull yourself through. But, by the simple laws of physics and an object acted upon, etc., that sometimes ends up in the offensive lineman getting pulled forward. And that's a little bit what happened here. Really good to do. It's really good job by these guys. So still a lot of work to do for this Texans defense. They're not stopping the run very well at all, but they are at least stopping drives. They're going to face bigger challenges on down the road. I don't know if that bigger challenge is going to be from Kenny Pickett, but they will face bigger challenges along the way. The nice thing is that hopefully they'll get some health back, both offensively and defensively, but they can build on this culture of coming up and winning games with big hits, turnovers, blocked kicks. That's good stuff.
My bunghole will not wait.